Hey everybody, I just did a video on the work we're doing on the top of this car, this Model A, in the woodwork part. But I also realized that I didn't do a video like I had planned on the chop. It's kind of in between projects and trying to squeeze this thing in on my Sundays. But I want to go over it real quick because there's a lot of, here and there bits and pieces on the web on chopping these. But I did quite a bit of research before I did this one. I've done a couple others before where I cut them straight through the middle, all the way around, and it worked. But I really think this method is probably the better out there, and I call it the Seabright method because that's where I found it on seabrightotrods.com. I think it is. I'll put the link in the description below. But anyway, they brought up some great points on kind of the subtle tapers and all that of this body. It's not straight up and down like everybody will tell you, or or kind of almost looks straight up and down. It's really not. And one of the big things on what they did that I found works awesome and worked great on this car is if you come in, and this is a 4-inch chop, you come into the center of this window and kind of the upper edge of the radius on this coupe glass, drop down your 4 inches, come across and go back up 4 inches and kind of key it. It takes out some of this taper in this back roof here. Now, I'm gonna over exaggerate this a little bit, but factory, these cars kind of taper out a little bit and then go up and roll over. Well, as you can see, this one's pretty much straight up and down. And I really think that adds to the sort of 32-ish look of this chop. And I dig that. Some people may not. But I really dig how that brought the whole back of the car down and flattened that out instead of having that carriage type roof where it kind of comes out, back and up and over. I think it makes the back of the car look way cleaner. Just wanted to make mention of that. I've cut a couple of them straight through the center, and it works, but it's not ideal. Also, another thing that they made mention of, and the other ones that I've done, kind of did in a hurry in my younger days and didn't remove the wood in here first. Sprayed it down with a water bottle and did my cut and welded it and prayed for no fire. But that's really not the right way to do it. But I wanted to mention, Henry put wood in here, and then this piece is actually a B-pillar piece that runs all the way down to the floor. And you can see there's still the factory wood in here. I took out this piece, and then I used my little belt sander because Seabright mentioned there's these screws in here that you can't get to from the outside because the skin is over top of it. So the wood was put in here prior to the quarter being put on the car. And then obviously they nailed it, to the wood inside of this pillar, drilled their holes through. But anyway, this wood is impossible to get out of here without, doing something about these two screws. And what I did was I took my little belt sander and belt sanded all the way in there and ground the end off of these two screws. And then I was able to remove this piece of wood. And then see that wood runs all the way up to the top here and then ties into that upper B-pillar header. So anyway, that's a huge thing. Getting that out of there was kind of a pain, but it's really the right way to do it. And then you can do your welds inside, take care of what you need to take care of, and so on and so forth. Another thing we did was we removed all the wood from around the coupe glasses and all the wood from around the back panel. And this wood was actually rotten at the bottom, which a lot of them are because the window leaks on them. So it needed to come out anyway. Just a easy way to do it. But I wanted to show on the inside here, what I did was I came down that 4 inches, but I kind of planned ahead so I didn't go right through the center of this bolt. Same thing on the other side, just below that bolt, because those bolts tie all this stuff together. And if you're missing one, it's not at the end of the world, but it's quite a bit better if you can plan it out to where you miss those bolts. And this keyway type cut is a great way to not get into any of those bolts. And it's a great way to bring the whole thing together where you're still saving this big thick piece of channel that kind of gives it some structure. And I like I said, I just think it's the choice way to handle the chop. But anyway, wanted to put that on there. And you know, obviously seabright goes over moving these windshield pivots, which is a really smart thing to do, because these are kind of not functional after you chop, because you see you're bringing your whole top down. This used to be up here. Well, all this used to be up here. Now it's way down here. Well, you can't, you know, close your windshield correctly, and these don't operate correctly if they're 4 inches lower than they're supposed to be. So seabright put it right below this hinge, chewed this. You can see there's already kind of a notch there. Works perfectly to move this up to here, rivet or bolt it in, however you want to do it, and move your windshield pivot up into this recess, which is a perfect spot for it. So anyway, that's another big thing that they did that I thought was awesome. And they had to cut and modify their window pieces just to get them to work correctly. I think they shortened them and maybe put a notch in them so that they suck the window in tight after you're done. But obviously, you know, you can visit their site and check out their pictures, but it's just a really great, I'm sure they did a way cleaner job, and it looks like the car was way nicer than this car. But it was a great article. It's a 2-part article, so I'll put the link for the first part and probably the link for the second part in there so you can see both. But just so you know, it is a 2-part article, and there's great pictures of not each step. It's not a step-by-step thing, but it's little bits and pieces of information that, you know, a lot of other places I did some research didn't cover. So anyway, you know, we cut the windshield post a little lower like seabright did. Worked out real good. Kind of straight through the middle of the doors, and you know, made sure everything was square and tight, and we braced it up. Obviously the bracing's out of there now. I had to do a test sit, throw my seat in there, you know, just to make sure I still fit in the car, which I do. And I'm 6'2", aroundish. So, you know, a 4-inch chop. And I did have to lower the, I don't have my floor pans in here yet, but I did have to lower and move my stock Model A seat brace back. And you can see I brought it back to this first brace here, instead of it being 4 inches forward or so, 4.5 inches forward, where it used to tie into this brace. That helped a lot with the headroom. And then the rear package tray is gone on this car. I took it out so that my seat can scoot all the way back. That helps a lot with a tall guy trying to get into these chopped cars. But worked out real good. And, you know, as you can see, doors shut real nice still. Everything was braced up. I did have to move this pillar just a hair out after I had braced it up with a monkey on a stick to get everything to jive, and that may have been prior damage to the car. I mean, hell, the car's almost 100 years old, so but I think everything flows pretty good. You know, it's not all jacked up. And we left all this wood in place before we cut the top. You know, it was rotten. It wasn't good, but it was something to hang everything together while the rest of it was going on. And I felt that was the right step, you know, to skip that step until after we got everything all welded up and tight, so that now we can go back in, fix the wood, and make everything super solid. But at least there was something in there to tie all this stuff together so it wasn't all wonky and loose and falling apart. You know, I know not everybody has that luxury when you get these cars. Some of these cars are in way rougher shape than this. But even then, some bracing in the top would be super beneficial if you're going to go and do a chop like this. Is Dad and I cut her loose. We lifted her off, set her right on the ground right here, and, you know, went to work on cleaning up all my cuts and set her right back on, and, you know, took my square and lined everything up before we did any, you know, spot welds, and went crazy on it. But yeah, that's one huge thing that I thought was just made the chop turn out way better. As like I said, having chopped a couple of these straight down the middle, I think this is way cleaner, way easier, way smoother way to do it. But anyway, just want to let you guys in on that. And like I said, check out Seabright. Their website's pretty decent, and they got some good pictures for you if you're planning on doing a chop. Thanks for watching.